Hi everyone, Jason here at the Whittier Public Library with our latest STEAM-powered science, take-home science activity. This one's going to incorporate a little bit of art because remember STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. So this is going to incorporate a little bit of art today too. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do leaf rubbings. So we're going to learn a little bit about leaves and about why they're important and why plants have them and why they fall off in the fall. And we're also going to create a little art project. So let's go ahead and get started. So hopefully you have a kit from us. If you do, you're going to have everything you need. If not, you can pick all the supplies up really easily, or you can probably even find them at home. So what you'll need is a few crayons. Here's a few different colors of crayons. If you have a kit, you probably have 2 or 3 crayons in different colors. You're going to need some plain white paper, which of course is easy to find, and you're going to need some leaves. So you can just go outside, walk around your neighborhood, look for some leaves that have interesting shapes. Make sure they're not too crunchy and brittle, or when you try to do this, they'll just break up. But old dead leaves are just fine, or you can pick some leaves if there's a good plant with an interesting shaped leaf nearby you. So that's all you need. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our rubbing. So let's pick out a leaf and we're going to pick out a crayon. So let's start with this leaf here. Now I recommend you peel your crayons because there's 2 different ways to do this. You can use the end of the crayon or you can use the side of the crayon. The side of the crayon will make a little bit lighter image and sometimes works a little bit better, but you can use the end if you want to try and get a darker, bolder image. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take one piece of paper, put the rest of my paper off to the side here, and I'm going to take the leaf and I'm going to lay it down on the table. Now make sure you get leaves that are very flat. If they're not very flat, you might want to put them under a book for a few hours and make sure they get nice and flattened. Otherwise, the image is not going to show up very well. And it's going to be really hard to do a good rubbing. So let's go ahead and lay that down flat. We're going to put the paper over the top of it. Now make sure you hold the paper in place very carefully as you do the rubbing, because if it slides around, it's going to mess up the image. Now I'm going to take my red, I'm going to rub the side of the crayon on there, and let's see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and rub that on there. And magically, we see a nice image of the leaf appear here. And there it is. Looks pretty much like the leaf we have, doesn't it? Okay, let's try another one. We'll try the end of the crayon this time. So we're going to get a smaller leaf, because smaller leaves are easier with the end of the crayon. So we're going to put that under there. I'm going to hold that down. And we're going to use, let's try green this time, because the leaf itself is actually green. We're going to rub that over the leaf. Get a nice green image of that leaf. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try this one here. And there we go. That's our rubbing. Feel free to do as many of these as you want. Find some other leaves and try them out. You might even try doing rubbings with some other things. You can do this with things like coins, maybe keys, anything that's flat but has some bumps or some texture to it. So experiment and try and see what else you can do a rubbing with. Okay, welcome back. So here's my rubbing. How did yours come out? I tried a few different leaves, a few different colors, and this is what I came up with. Now we're going to talk a little bit about leaves and about why they're important, why plants have them, and why they fall off some plants in the fall. So if you notice on your rubbing and also on your actual leaf, you will see a bunch of little lines in the leaf. See the little lines? These are actually called veins. And they're very similar to the veins in your body, except these don't carry blood, they carry water. And they carry water actually all the way up from the roots of the plant all the way to the leaves. Now, why do plants need water in their leaves? Well, the reason is that leaves are where plants make their food. And their food is actually sugar. The way they do this is they combine that water with carbon dioxide, and that produces sugar and oxygen. And the sugar is what they use for their energy. Because remember, plants are living things, so they need energy just like we do. The energy to create this chemical reaction, to change the carbon dioxide and the water into sugar and oxygen, comes from the sun. And to absorb that energy, they use something called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is found in most leaves, and I bet you can guess what color it is. So what color are leaves usually? The green, right? That's because chlorophyll is green and because there's a lot of chlorophyll in there. The other thing to mention about leaves is they're often a very flat shape like this, a large flat shape. That's so they have a lot of surface to absorb a lot of sunlight because they need that sunlight to make their food, remember? So let's talk a little bit about why trees lose their leaves in the fall and winter. If you walked around your neighborhood, you probably saw a lot of brown leaves on the ground. You may have seen some that were red or yellow as well. And the reason that trees lose their leaves in the winter is, you remember, they need sunlight for these leaves to make food for them. But there's less sunlight in the winter, and that's for a couple reasons. Number one, as you know, the days are shorter in the winter, right? The sun comes up later, it goes down earlier, so there's just not as much sunlight. Also, there tends to be more cloudy weather in the winter, and if there's more cloudy weather, that's also less sunlight. So for some of these trees, they stop producing the chlorophyll that makes their food because the sunlight is going away. There's not nearly as much. And because the chlorophyll is what makes the leaves green, the leaves will turn brown, or sometimes red or yellow or orange, and then gradually they'll fall off the tree. Then when there's more sunlight again in the spring, those trees will grow brand new leaves so they can produce more food again. Okay, so that's about it for today's activity. Hopefully you had fun making a leaf rubbing today, and hopefully you also learned a little bit about leaves, what they are, and why they exist. Now, if you would like to learn a little bit more, or find a little bit more about leaves, or maybe just read a story, stop by the Whittier Public Library. You can borrow some books from us. For example, we have science projects about plants, so you could do a little bit more studying scientific topics to do with plants. We have a story called Leaf Man, or if you're interested in the crayons, maybe The Day the Crayons Quit. We also have one here called Awesome Autumn. I'll tell you a little bit about this season and what happens during this season. Plants Can't Sit Still, learn a little bit more about plants. Or here's another one, Why Do Leaves Change Color? Talk a little bit more about autumn and why the leaves fall off some trees. So come see us at the Whittier Library soon, and keep an eye out. And in a couple weeks, we'll have another STEAM-powered science activity. Thanks for joining us today.